Today we are going to see. What if Jiraiya and Tsunade met again on Amazon Lily? So let's get started. This had to be maybe, oh she didn't know, the umpteenth Tim. She's snuck into his apartment this month alone. Luckily Dan was as dull as a damn used pencil or else she would have been caught for sure. She didn't mean to cheat on the man, but what could she do? Who else could she turn to when her needs were so feral, so untamed and virulent? She had the sexual appetite of a female tigress and there was only one man in the entire village who could satiate that hunger and that was her other half Jiraiya. You know, one day he's gonna find out. Jiraiya, you wouldn't dare. I wouldn't tell a living soul. Unless you wanted me to, lass. Tsunade sighed, stopped his hands from lifting the mesh of her shirt. No, come on, don't you think it's kinda late to be modest, Haim? He mused lightly. She merely rolled her eyes, allowed him to kiss the crew of her neck as she felt him rising the hem of her shirt again. There were times when she would cry for hours after sex with him, days even when everything was done and over with. But the weirdest thing of it all was that he was comforting her for all those countless days and hours of her tears and sobbing. And she accepted his coaxing. He understood her situation but at the same time, wanted the woman to realize just what it was that was going through his mind, his heart. Tsunade was as stubborn as an ox, he knew firsthand, yet he believed in love and trusted that their love would one day surpass every known element that was keeping them apart. Sex was their way of bonding. A relationship, unfortunately, was not Tsunade's was of bonding. She wanted a no-strings-attached fling, something Jiraiya could give her. But something he didn't think he could maintain for long. Any other woman, Jiraiya wouldn't have a problem. But when it was his childhood friend, the kunoichi he's loved for Kami knows how long, it was different. If the blonde-haired bombshell wanted a damn pony and 1,000 roses, no doubt he would find a way to get her all of those things and more. Gods, do I love her. Tsunade. What? She looked as beautiful as they came in the moonlight, so pretty, he thought he would cry from the sight of her liquid caramels staring up at him. Dan, have you told him yet? Tsunade then looked downwards, bit her rosy bottom lip. He noticed the deeper shade of her lips after they would make love, apparently from all the lip biting every time he would touch her in just the right place. Pleased her in just the right way, which happened to be consistent throughout their love-making. The color of her lips could have been compared to strawberries. No. Why won't you tell him? Love can't exist through lies. Haim, you can't continue to lie to him. It's not right. She sighed. Well, damn it, Jiraiya. You tell him then. Fine with me. No, don't. The blonde-haired girl sat up in the bed, ran a manicured hand through her long, silken tresses all the while shaking her head. If she knew having sex with her teammate would lead to so much drama, she would have. He thought twice about letting him take off her shirt, and her pants, and anything else that was obstructing the path of his touchably soft lips on her body. Look, maybe we should just quit while we're ahead, Jiraiya. He studied her with puzzled eyes, a frown at his young face. All because I was going to tell your boyfriend that you want to break up. No, it's not that. She craned her neck to look at him over her bare shoulder. Hurt embedded in her luminescent ambers. Why are you so intent of ruining me and Dan's relationship? Intent, Jiraiya said, baffled that the buxom woman would accuse him of such a thing. Sitting up as well, he gestured towards the scattered, discarded clothes on the floor, most of them being Tsunade's. The evidence was right in front of her. How can you say something like that? Woman, look around you. If anyone's ruining your relationship with Dan, it most definitely isn't me. You know what? I'm outta here. Jiraiya sighed heavily, endured nay of her punches to his chest before watching her edge off of the bed. The sheet she held close to her chest trailed behind her as she kept herself concealed from the exhausted toad sage. He didn't care. Now why she always had to be so virulent, her temper was just as vulgar as her language. Tsunade, wait, shut the hell up, it was all a mistake, you idiot. Was it, Haim? Really, it was a mistake? Yes, she screamed, turned around only to collide with the toned wall of his warm chest. Nothing between us could ever be a mistake, lass. He hugged her tightly around her waist and as he predicted, she fought him off with punches to his chest. Let him rephrase that she tried to fight him off. When he snaked his arms tighter around her it was then that she gave up. You irritate me, she mumbled, hid her face into his chest. Jiraiya sighed forlornly. I love you too, Haim. You know I can't tell him. I understand, but you have to know something, he whispered as he unwound his arms slightly from around her. Tsunade looked up at him, surprised to see sadness in his eyes. She hated to see him like this. I won't wait forever. It's either him or me. I know what your heart wants, Haim. Her lip wobbled before she hid her face into his chest again, tears rolling down the hills of his skin. She hated him for this, for everything he was putting her through. Why couldn't the man just be happy with the sex? Why did he have to make her choose? What on earth was wrong with him? Let me go, she muttered tearily. When he did, she swiftly shoved him away and proceeded to redress herself. Not giving a damn whether he was watching or not. She knew he was, his gaze was like the sun's noon rays. Tsunade silently tossed the sheet she used to cover herself with aside onto the floor when her skirt and shirt were on. She didn't bother to put on her fishnet leggings nor her mesh halter top as she reached for her stilettos. You're leaving. Tsunade ignored him, hid away her TRS that fell down from her glossy auburns, focused on strapping on her heels, which was hard to do with the trembling of her hands. He could see the tiny tremors of her small body, a hurt deep inside. Oh. F him that he didn't know existed bursting forth for the beautiful woman. What was he thinking? Of course he would wait for the woman. But he wouldn't let her know that. Not yet at least. She was the love of his life, and little did she know, he'd do just about anything for her. Love, it just wouldn't do without her. No, not at all. Love had no meaning when she wasn't in it. With him, near him. Lo, they was a definition that couldn't be completed unless she stared into his and said she loved him too. Love, that's what he saw inside of this woman. In her lovely eyes and beautiful smile. Her love was most divine in ways he couldn't explain. Why did her love have to come in such unpredictable intervals and quantities? But he wasn't one to complain. Any kind of affection from her could never be too much. 1,000 kisses from her could never be too much. Please, don't leave. Tell that to someone who cares. When her heels were on, she swiftly stood up and reached for her blue jacket that was laying haphazardly on the floor. After thrusting her arms through the sleeves, she wasted no time as she strode towards the door. Tsunade, wait. Her hand was on the doorknob, yet she refused to look at him. Clamping her eyes shut, she said spitefully, why the hell should I? Tsunade, please. I love you. You love to screw me, you bastard. No, I love you. Tsunade, don't leave. He strode towards her, planted his hand on the door. He refused to let her leave. Tsunade bit down on her lip, wanted to punch the ignorant man for even daring to stop her from leaving. Jiraiya stared down at her with pleading in his dark eyes. His heart wrenching when she finally looked up at him with shimmering ambers, shaking with hurt. Why won't you give up? Because you're the only woman that will ever take my heart. I love you. Believe me, Tsunade. Surprise hit both of them when Tsunade reached up and kissed him softly on the lips, leaned her upper body against his. He cradled the small of her back. Mirth fluttering throughout his stomach, his heart for this amazing woman. She deepened the kiss, wound her arms around his neck. If this wasn't love, Jiraiya didn't want to know what it really was. Because any kind of compassion from her was like receiving the kisses and embraces of a lovely goddess. And lovely was what she was. He didn't know if she was really a goddess or not. But he could fantasize. Tsunade slowly broke away, breathless, and it was in her face. Her wonderfully exotic, pretty face. Jiraiya would put her in front of anything in this known world, wanted only happiness and prosperity for her. For them as a couple. Why couldn't she just be with him? Was that your own little way of saying you love me too? He whispered, tucked away a stray tendril of blonde behind her small ear. She didn't reply, only stared up at him with large, disappointed ambers. I don't think you'll ever give up. Have you ever looked at yourself in the mirror? A lass like you doesn't come around a lot. You'll give in sooner or later. I'll never give up. Tsunade only sighed as she shook her head gently, scrunched her face when he leaned downwards to kiss her cheek, then her lips. Shish. He thumped him firmly on the shoulder after he kissed her, warned him sternly to never kiss her so unpredictably. Kissing you is like second nature, Haim. Please excuse me if I do, I can't help it. You're really starting to piss me off. You know, she growled, squirmed slightly in his tight embrace. Jiraiya ignored her threats and only kissed her again, smiling devilishly against her lips. His smile evolved into a smirk when the blonde-haired princess kissed him back, her hands grasping fistfuls of his spiky hair. I'm pissing you off, huh? Doesn't seem like it to me. Tsunade's throat emitted contradicting whimpers the moment his lips left hers to kiss down her chest, attempted to push him away from the cradling hold of his hands to her tiny waist. Thoughts of Dan still ran through her mind. guilty pleasure slowly rising within her being. Her eyes were glossy with hurt, yet the pit of her stomach churned with an insatiable sensation that only Jiraiya could quell. She hated the man for everything he was making her feel. Literally helpless to his onslaught of possessive passion to her scalding body, Tsunade became unwillingly pliant and allowed the unthinkable the already done. Sex made her feel no different for him, only heightened her concerns. Jiraiya was a rapturous lover, and his love for her was as strong as his overbearing strength in battle. Who knew what he'd do if he ever saw her around Dan again? On one hand, she didn't need him for anything mentally, would have been fine if he just let her walk out of that door. Yet on the other hand, she relied on his sex. His rampant, relentless and hungry sex that should be illegal for how wonderfully, sinfully good it felt. The one thing she despised but encouraged at the same time about the lecherous man was his research. It paid off. She wondered if all of his one-night stands and his peeping was all just to make their sex life better. To learn more about the woman's body and feral desires. Each and every time was something different, and dare she say, he was actually improving with their sex. He knew every weakness on her body, inside and out. She was like an entire canvas of worlds known and unknown, Jiraiya. The wilder to her cached map of wonders. A new discovery awaited his willing and extraordinarily skilled hands, tongue and whatever else he so pleased to probe her with. If it were up to him, he would have named her the eighth wonder of the world a long time ago, because that was exactly what she was in his eyes. But could she be called his wonder? She didn't belong to him, and it hurt almost to know that the love he held so dearly for her was so unrequited. I love you. Why? Tsunade was exhausted in the arms of her lover, the soothing movements of him smoothing the damp tendrils of her hair nearly lulling her to a world of unexplored dreams. The one other thing she admired about him was the sole fact that he was the perfect gentleman, so gentle and sweet and charismatically handsome. She would never admit it to him, but she was about the luckiest girl in the world to be the only one that held his heart. Jiraiya stared down at her calm face, a mirth that almost sprung forth tears. To his eyes as he studied her lily-white skin, soft lips that were the most luscious he's kissed in all his young days. Her eyelids blanketed her stunning auburns, the slight curtain of moonlight that filtered through his window enlightening her face until he was nearly convinced she was a lost angel. You're so beautiful. I'm a lucky guy, lass. He kissed the crown of her blonde-colored tresses, stared with intent dark eyes at her slender face. Very lucky. You baka, she whispered, thankful for the warmth that emitted from his strong silhouette, both of them beneath the sheets. She sprawled a manicured hand across his chest, opened her eyes slightly as she listened with her sense of touch at the strong yet tranquil heartbeats emitting from within his being. He was a stallion, a tired stallion, she corrected to herself as she let a small smile tug at the corners of her mouth. Jiraiya, the pride of the male species, and her, Tsunade, the envy of the female utopia. Both of them were absolutely meant for each other. Without each other, well, love would never do. So, is all of this still a mistake, Haim? Tsunade lifted her head from resting on his arm and unveiled a pair of shining ambers. The same color as the sun's rays in the daytime. His shining star, golden-haired goddess of a world he has yet to have seen, a world she left for reasons he would never know. But he always cared to think that maybe it was him she came for on this unforgiving earth. Quote, making me feel like the only woman on this earth can never be a mistake. The